So I'm walking through my orchard this morning, and this time of year we get a lot of sprouts like this. This happens to be an apple tree, and this will just be sticking up out of the soil. And I yanked on that, and this is what came out. You see that? So what this is this is a root remnant of a tree that I ripped out because it wasn't productive enough. In this particular case, if you care, there was a Granny Smith planted here, and Granny Smiths will grow and survive, and they'll even fruit where I live, but the apples are always tiny. They're like the size of golf balls and inedible. And so I gave it years. I had to wait years until it bore fruit, and then I tore it out because it was clear that there was not going to be a good year ever with those trees. I had 2 of them. So I yanked it out, and as tends to be the case, there's some root that remains, and you won't know about it for a year or 2 or 3 after the fact. And that's the telltale sign, is you get a little sprout. You never know if it's just going to be a standalone tree. Maybe it got planted by seed or something, or it's going to be attached to a giant root. And in a lot of ways, the changes that we want to make in our lives are like this, where we make what we think is an enormous change. And if you've ever ripped out an established tree, it's an ordeal. And then maybe years after the fact, we see this remnant, and on the surface it looks small. And in all likelihood, it could very well be less of an ordeal tearing that out as it was the original tree. But it could be even bigger. Odds are that you've got something substantial under the surface, something bigger than what's appearing on the surface. A lot of problems are like this, where you see the symptom, and the symptom is smaller than the actual problem. If I had time, I'd walk over, I'd show you, and just do a quick scan to see if I can see. Often in the same orchard, oh, look at that, we got one. In the same orchard, we got something like this, where you see this rock. Now it's got scratch marks on it from my tiller. And so this thing gets run over every year when I till in here. And it looks like it's just a surface rock, right? Because only a little bit is sticking up. But every year I'll walk around and I'll choose a few of these to dig up. And it turns out that you can have a rock easily as big as this guy, where just that little bit is sticking up out of the top. And in fact, I just cleaned them up yesterday, so I can't show you, but most of the ones I dug up this year had about 3 of these worth of rocks. Thankfully none this big, but the same volume of 3 of those, where just this little bit is sticking up out of the surface. It's like an iceberg. A lot of problems are like that. And so the only way we can notice these things is through what sticks up past the surface. But you got to be ready to go to war on these things, because odds are they're really big problems. And like that tree, they're going to get bigger the longer you leave them in the ground.